Hello everyone, Phoenix Knight here. Welcome to the channel, and welcome back to Christmas in Arkham 2022. Hopefully you've had a wonderful Thanksgiving, took advantage of some good deals on Black Friday, and now you're not ready, and now you're ready, if not completely eager, to get back to work on Monday. I know I'm ready, at least, to be back to work on Monday, but my Christmas vacation is actually starting for the year in a little less than 2 weeks. But we're not going to dwell on that right now, because right now we're getting ready to finish up the Fate of the Elder Gods tournament for Christmas in Arkham. So over the course of the weekend, we've been going through the first 3 play-in groups for the Fate of the Elder Gods tournament, and today we've got the winners group up. So Yog-Sothoth came out of Group 1 after starting the tournament off with a bang at our first summon. Then Atlach-Nacha came out of Group 2 with another summon performance. And then Shub-Niggurath came out of Group 3 with the best performance of the tournament so far, in only taking 2 Elder Signs, versus Yog-Sothoth and Atlach-Nacha both taking 3. But anyway, the stakes for this winners group are particularly high because the winner of this group will be our opponent for Christmas in Arkham this year. But anyway, that's enough dwelling on that. Actually, one more thing I did want to mention. So, Yog-Sothoth advanced out of Group 1 via an executive tiebreaker against Ithaca. Now, I have featured Atlach-Nacha on the channel, but that was so long ago that I'm comfortable not using the executive tiebreaker on this one. Because, like I said, it's been over a year and a half since I actually featured Atlach-Nacha on the channel. And that was part of the very first Dream Eaters campaign. Pardon the door opening you're hearing in the background. I'm getting the dice cup and the dice tower out because I forgot to pull them out when I was setting up last night. But anyway, I'll put these down here. I'll put them down over here. Anyway, so now that we're all set there, just as a reminder, our goal in this game is to summon the Ancient One that we're playing with by moving around the board. And I'll explain how each location on the board works when we move over to the board. But you can lose in one of 2 ways. You can lose by either taking 5 curses or 10 Elder Signs. And based on tiebreakers, the Ancient One would probably rather lose by curses than by Elder Signs. But anyway, that will do it for the high-level overview. Now let's work our way over to the Ancient One, but we'll stop off at the board. In a solo game, we use both Fate pieces, so we'll be controlling the Dark Fate piece that starts off at the Otherworld's location, and the investigators will use the light-colored piece starting off at the streets of Arkham. So you use cards that have symbols on the back to move around the board and do various effects. When you move to a location, you get to do the basic action and then potentially roll for temporary control of the location. But anyway, I'm getting slightly ahead of myself on that. There's also ways to get, like I said, temporary control, but I'll explain that when we get into the game proper. Right now, we'll just go ahead and go through each of the locations, kind of set the scene a little bit more. So at the ceremony, you can actually go there using a white symbol on one of your spell cards to trigger your Ancient One's Dark Gift and get a gate card, which you can then use for movement to any location on the board. Streets of Arkham normally would let you send investigators to other lodges and then raid those investigators, but in the solo game that works a little bit differently. So when we move to the Streets of Arkham, we actually get to take 2 investigators off of our lodge, and then if we have control, we can sacrifice a cultist there to take 1 more off. The only reason I'm going to mention that now is because I don't expect to be going there very often. The Gathering is one we'll probably be going to quite a bit. And you need a yellow to move to the Streets of Arkham. At the Gathering, you need a green symbol to move there, and you get 3 cultists back from the Abyss, and you can move 1 from the Gathering up to any other location. Usually we'll be moving to the Otherworlds, but I'll talk more about why when we get up to the Otherworlds. Because first we need to go to the library, using a red symbol to move there, where we can draw 3 cards from the spell deck and ready an additional spell using the same pool of cards that are in the astral column for the library. Then up at the Otherworlds, there we get to sacrifice cultists to advance on the summoning track. based on the roll of the dice there being 1 die per cultist there. Then at the museum, needing a blue symbol, you can take one of the artifacts that are there. I'll reveal those in a second, but the other worlds, you either need a gate card to move there or any 2 matching symbols. But anyway, let's go ahead and take a look at our first artifacts that are in play. I think we can move that fake beast back into place. So first artifact for Yog-Sothoth's playthrough. The Shining Trapezohedron. You may hold up to 2 gate cards and exhaust it. When another cult moves to the ceremony, draw a gate card. And then for the second artifact, Runic Chalk. While Runic Chalk is in play, increase your spell reserve by 1 and discard it to ready a spell for free. So those are the artifacts. We also have to go through the monster reserve, which I was not paying attention to at all during the play-in groups, except Shub-Niggurath basically forced us to bring the monster reserve in. But anyway, monsters here. First up is a goat spawn with 3 tokens. On your turn, you may discard 1 token to place the goat spawn on a location, then roll 3 dice. For each lesser elder sign, actually we're just going to say for each elder sign on this one, move an investigator to another location. Then choose a cult with at least 1 investigator at this location. That cult becomes cursed. Really doesn't do much of it. Curses really don't do much of anything to the investigators in a solo game. That's more for other players. Actually, we could probably use that. We could probably kind of house rule that for a solo game where you get to get rid of a curse. Maybe discarding an extra token. I don't know, though. I don't know how we'll do that. We'll probably just say you can get rid of a curse using that. But anyway, then the second face-up monster in the reserve is the Shub-Niggurath. Place the Shub-Niggurath at the other worlds. Once summoned and at the beginning of each turn, roll 1 die for each investigator present at the cultist. For each Cthulhu, return 1 to the supply because you're destroying it. On each greater elder sign, move the investigator to the next clockwise location. After all dice have been rolled, the Shub-Niggurath moves to the next clockwise location. When the Shub-Niggurath returns to the other worlds, destroy all investigators on your lodge, then remove the Shub-Niggurath from play. On Friday, we saw Shub-Niggurath take control of the Shub-Niggurath, and it did exactly bubkiss for her, more than somewhat annoyingly, but anyway. That's everything set up. Now let's go down and meet Yog-Sothoth and take a look at his Dark Gift. Yog-Sothoth's Dark Gift is key and gate, so when we move to the ceremony, we can activate this. Look at any 1 spell card from any location's astral column. You may choose to ready that spell at no cost or discard it. Spells readied with Yog-Sothoth's Dark Gift do not count towards your spell limits. We'll probably ready them off to one of this. Probably on this side we'll count spells with that, because this side I'll put the curses, and then of course we've got the 3 spell limit on prepared spells. But anyway, let's take a look at Yog-Sothoth's starting hand. On a white we find Alhazred's Vengeance, taking a yellow, green, and red. Reveal when another cult takes an action that places at least 1 cultist on your lodge, or 1 investigator on your lodge. That cult becomes cursed. On a green we find Dark Pact, taking a red and a white. Become cursed to prevent gaining all elder signs from a single source. And on a yellow, Coerce the Innocent, taking a white, green, and red. Move up to 2 investigators from any 1 location or lodge to any lodges. Except we'll probably say that for any other location. But anyway, that's everything set up for Yog-Sothoth. Now let's move back over to the board and get started with this game. Between the desire to grab a gate right away and Alhazred's Vengeance just objectively being terrible in a solo game, I'll discard Alhazred's Vengeance on a white to move down to the ceremony, which will put an investigator out and a cultist there. I'll get a gate, and Yog-Sothoth's Dark Gift will let me look at the red spell here at the Streets of Arkham. So here we find an Ancient Stirring. Advance 1 on the summon track. You may sacrifice one of your cultists at the current altar location to advance 1 more on your summon track. Ooh. I will definitely go ahead and prepare that for free. Let's see. Then I will roll for temporary control. So we'll move all of those out of the way. Remember, rolling for temporary control, I need a Cthulhu on the die to get temporary control. So that is what I'm looking for, to get temporary control. Which I don't get, but anyway, that will do it for, do I want to go ahead and cast that right away? I don't know that I do, actually. Actually, the ceremony's location I wouldn't mind having cultists at, because we can potentially advance on the summon track there, so I'll actually sit tight on that for the time being. But anyway, Yog-Sothoth on a blue will draw. Rack taking 2 yellow. Destroy a cult, an investigator from any one location or lodge. Okay, and then the investigators to the Streets of Arkham will discard a blue to move up to the museum and place an investigator out there. Then for my turn, since Dark Pact is actually, well, decent, but it's the only location I'm interested in right now, I'll discard it on a green to move over to the Gathering. Placing a cultist and an investigator. I'll move 1 to the other worlds, and then I will roll for temporary control. Which I don't get again. So I'll get that out of shot. And then for a green and a red, I'm not preparing anything there. So on a yellow, I will draw Witch's Curse, taking a green and a white. Choose a cult, that cult becomes cursed. Then Yog-Sothoth, or then the investigators will discard a red to move to the library and place an investigator out there. Then for my turn, I will discard 2 yellow at the Gathering to move to I don't necessarily want to move to the other worlds yet, but I will move to the ceremony again, which will put another cultist out and an investigator. I already have a gate card, so that part of the dark gift won't trigger. So that part of the location action actually is what won't trigger. But I will go ahead and trigger the... I'll go ahead and look at any one spell card from the location's astral column. I'll look at this white because I know this one was an Alhazred's Vengeance, and I know that was terrible. So this one finds Dark Pact. Become cursed to prevent gaining all Elder Signs from a single source. I think I'll leave it there because that's a you may choose to ready that spell at no cost or discard it. So I could just leave it there. Anyway, I will roll for temporary control again. I have 3 cultists there, but there are also 3 investigators there, so I don't get control of the location outright. And I don't get temporary control either. But here I think I will cast an Ancient Stirring, which will let me advance 1 on the summon track, and then I'll sacrifice a cultist from the ceremony to advance 1 more. So I'm up to 2 on the summon track. Then for 2 white and a green, I'm not able to prepare anything, so Yog-Sothoth will draw 2 cards. On a green, he'll find Transmogrify, taking a white and a yellow. Change any one-rolled die to any face. If the new face is Tentacle or Cthulhu, become cursed. And on another green, Confound, taking a blue and 2 yellow. Move all investigators from one location to an adjacent location, or destroy all investigators in your lodge. Then the investigators will discard a blue to move back to the museum and put on another cultist. And then from the ceremony, I'll use the gate that I drew earlier to move up to the other worlds, which will put a cultist there and an investigator out as well. Then I will get to roll 3 dice to potentially advance on the summon track. Wow. Okay. So I got 2 tentacles and a Cthulhu, which means I'll sacrifice all 3 of these cultists and advance 1, 2, 3 on the summon track. So Yog-Sothoth is already halfway there. Actually, Yog-Sothoth is... Yog-Sothoth is halfway there. Exactly halfway there. And then there's no cultist there, so we don't get temporary control. For 2 white and a wild, are we able to prepare anything? Yes, I will prepare... this almost is a waste, but I will prepare Transmogrify, just in case I need to change a result, which will discard everything there. I'm using the wild as a yellow in this case. Then Yog-Sothoth will draw a white. He will draw an Ancient Stirring, taking 3 white. Ooh. Advance 1 on your... We saw this earlier when we cast the prepped spell, but anyway. From the museum, the investigators will discard a yellow card to move back to the streets of Arkham and place an investigator out. Then Yog-Sothoth will actually discard a... What spells do we have there? Now the artifacts aren't terrible, so I'll discard a blue from the other worlds to move over to the museum, which brings all 3 of the investigators to my lodge. I'll place a cultist and an investigator there. And I think I do want the Shining Trapezohedron as often as I've been moving to the ceremony this game. Actually, I need somewhere to put artifacts too. We'll do that. And then the top of the deck is a ceremonial dagger. Discard this to return up to 5 cultists from your lodge, then become cursed. And then do I want temporary control to cycle that out? No, I don't think I do, actually. I could have grabbed the runic chalk to ready a spell for free, but I'm not going to worry about that now. And then with spells... yeah, I don't want temporary control right now. I will actually use the blue and 2 yellow at the museum to go ahead and ready Confound. So if I need to move cultists to an adjacent, or move investigators to an adjacent location, or I can destroy all investigators in my lodge. So if I'm getting ready, so if I need to stop a raid from coming, I can do that. But anyway, we'll then draw 2 cards. So on a blue, Yog-Sothoth will find Call the Wicked Ones, taking a green and 2 white, summon a monster and become cursed. And on a red, Broken Seal, taking 3 red, destroy any one monster or any one elder sign. You may sacrifice 1 cultist at the current altar location to destroy 1 more. Then from the streets of Arkham, the investigators will try to move back there, but they're already there. So they'll move up to the other worlds and put an investigator out. I really want to go to the ceremony, but this Ancient Stirring is way too good, and I can prepare it at the ceremony. So I'll actually discard the Broken Seal to the museum to move over to the library. So I get an investigator out and another cultist, but I need to be careful because I do need to get my cultists back. I do need to get cultists back pretty soon. But anyway, I'll draw on a white symbol. I will draw Coerce the Innocent, taking a green, blue, and a yellow. Move up to 2 investigators from any one location or lodge to any lodge or any other location in this case. On a red, so these are both red. Alter Fate, taking a yellow and a white. Either reroll up to 3 of your dice once or 1 of your dice up to 3 times. And Call the Wicked Ones, taking blue and 2 green. Summon a monster and become cursed. Do I want temporary control of the location? I could sacrifice 1 from the library to ready 1 spell at no cost. I think I kind of do, actually. I'm going to have to stand those back up in a second, but I can deal with that. I don't get temporary control, and I'll go ahead while I'm at it and stand these cultists back up, trying to get them into this half so I have somewhere I can put the dice tower unimpeded. Let's see, a red and 2 blue. There is nothing in this hand that I can prepare, so I guess I will draw. On a yellow, I will draw Cubes of Power, taking a red and a white. When rolling dice, I may add 2 additional dice to this roll. Alright, then the investigators will discard a blue from the other worlds to move over to the museum and put another investigator there. Now I'm going to get a little bit... Now we're going to get a little bit crazy. So, I'm going to discard this Ancient Stirring to advance to move to the ceremony, which does put the investigators out and will trigger a raid at the end of turn, but I thought I just had a spell prepared to deal with that. I do, Confound, so I'll destroy all 6 investigators in my lodge. That'll make sure I stop the raid from happening. I'll put a cultist out and I brought the investigator into my lodge because I'm derpy. Anyway, so yeah, that's kind of a problem, but alright, so I get a gate card and I get to trigger my dark gift, and funnily enough, I'll look at this card. Hey, I wonder what this could possibly be. Hey, look at that! It's that Ancient Stirring I just discarded, so I will ready that for obvious reasons. And then I do have control outright, so I'll advance I'll sacrifice the 2 cultists to advance 1 on the track. Then I'll summon an Ancient Stirring, which lets me advance 1 on the track, and I may sacrifice 1 of my cultists at the current altar location to advance 1 more on the summon track. So that brings Yog-Sothoth up to 8 summons, or 8 on the summoning track, and somehow has taken no Elder Signs, or curses for that matter. This is probably one of the best performances that I've had yet in this tournament. Anyway, for 2 white, a wild card, and a green. 2 white, a wild card, and a green. I will actually prepare Cubes of Power, using the wild card as a red, so when I'm rolling, I can add 2 additional dice to the roll. Anyway, Yog-Sothoth has way more than 3 cards in hand, so he will draw up. He will draw another Cubes of Power. This one takes a blue and a green. Then the investigators at the museum will discard a white, trying to move to the ceremony, except Yog-Sothoth is there. So they'll move to the other worlds, placing a cultist out, and Yog-Sothoth will actually take his first curse. Then he'll discard the gate at the ceremony to move over to the gathering. Now, I've got to remember the order of this, because he's got no... I think the basic action happens first. Investigators move to the lodge, which there is only 2 there. Cultist and investigator placement. Okay, so I take 2. 1 goes to the location, 1 goes to the lodge, but Yog-Sothoth will take an Elder Sign and penalty for it. Okay, then the basic action, which gets me 3 cultists back from the gathering. I think I waited a turn too long to go there. Then we'll move 1 to the gathering, or not the gathering, the other worlds. And I will go ahead and roll for temporary control. Which I do get, so I'll move the other cultist up to the other worlds as well. Oop. So there. And then for a green, red, and 2 yellow, nothing I can prepare. So Yog-Sothoth will draw. Call the Wicked Ones, taking a yellow and 2 red. Summon a monster and become cursed. Okay, then the investigators will try to move to the gathering, except, say it with me, kids. Yog-Sothoth is there, so they'll move to the streets of Arkham instead, since they were already at the other worlds, and Yog-Sothoth will end up with his second curse. Okay, and then, do we have a way... Oh yeah, we have... Let me look at Yog-Sothoth's hand, and I'm pretty sure we've got... Yeah, we've got 2 red that I can discard at the gathering to move up to the other worlds. The investigators move to the lodge. We'll place 1 there and another investigator at the other worlds. Yog-Sothoth has 3 dice there. And I don't think we're going to bother with cubes of power. We may need transmogrify, though. Yog-Sothoth can take another curse if he has to. He'll already take 1 if he ends up getting the summon. Which he will get. So he'll get to sacrifice 2 cultists, which will advance him to 9 on the summoning track, but it'll give him his 3rd curse. So Yog-Sothoth actually put in a pretty decent performance at getting summoned. So let me turn on the keyboard. Come on. Alright, I'm going to actually bring this so the headings, there we go. I want to make sure I can see the headings on this. So Yog-Sothoth did get summoned, took 1 Elder Sign, and 3 curses. That was actually a pretty good performance from Yog-Sothoth. Except now that puts both Atlach-Nacha and Shub-Niggurath kind of against the wall, because they both have basically no room to play with on Elder Signs. But anyway, that will do it for Yog-Sothoth. Speaking of Atlach-Nacha, now I need to get the board reset for her playthrough. There is probably a pretty good chance that Yog-Sothoth will be able to ride 2 free Ancient Stirrings into being our opponent for Christmas in Arkham. But we're going to give it a shot with Atlach-Nacha up next. So anyway, the starting artifacts for Atlach-Nacha at the museum. First up we find Wizard's Grimoire. Your minimum hand size is 5. So when you draw spells at the end of the turn, you'll draw back up. Draw back up to 5. And Dust of Yog-Sothoth. Destroy it to discard a card from your hand to cancel any spell being cast. The spell is discarded without effect. So we've got 1 very good artifact for a solo game and 1 dud. But anyway, let's move over and meet the Spider Queen, Atlach-Nacha. Last thing up, we need to go through the monster reserve that Atlach-Nacha is starting with. So first up we find a Dark Young. On your turn, you may discard one token to place Dark Young on a location. Move all investigators there to any location, then roll 3 dice. For each tentacle, destroy a cultist. For each Cthulhu, destroy 2. Investigators cannot be placed or moved into a location occupied by Dark Young. I think we'll house rule that to be investigators, so it's actually useful in a solo game. And the Hunting Horror. Place the Hunting Horror on this card. On your turn, you may discard 1 token to place the Hunting Horror on any lodge. When cultists or investigators are added to the occupied lodge, roll 1 die for each. On a Cthulhu or Tentacle, destroy the investigator or cultist, then return Hunting Horror to this card. If the Hunting Horror returns to this card and there are no more tokens, remove Hunting Horror from play. With 4 tokens on it. But anyway, now we're ready to meet Atlach-Nacha. Her dark gift is Weaver of Worlds. Place 2 of your cultists onto any other lodge, 1 from the Abyss and 1 from your lodge, but we'll use the investigator's supply for that. When a lodge with your cultist places one of their cultists onto a location, so when the investigators place an investigator on a location, you may place one of your cultists from their supply onto that location as well. So if any ability is going to help get... if any ability is going to help make headway against that very fast performance from Yog-Sothoth, it's probably going to be this one, but we're going to go ahead and play it out anyway. So with that, let's move back to the board and get started with Atlach-Nacha's playthrough. Oh, we got to go through the starting hand before we do that. So on a yellow we find Alter Fate, taking a green and a red. Either reroll up to 3 of your dice once or 1 of your dice up to 3 times. On a red, Cubes of Power, taking a blue and a green. When you're rolling dice, you may add 2 additional dice to this roll. And on a green, Confound. Move all investigators from one location to an adjacent location or destroy all cultists in your lodge. Which Yog-Sothoth also used to avoid taking too many Elder Signs. But with that, now we're ready to move back to the board and get into this playthrough. I think we will discard... as much as I don't want to, I'll discard the Cubes of Power to move over to the library, which will place a cultist and an investigator. So that'll get me 3 cards. That'll give me 3 spells, and I can ready an additional spell using the same pool. So on a white we find Corruption, taking a yellow and a green. Either sacrifice 2 cultists from your lodge or become cursed. Then you may advance 1 on the summon track or destroy 2 Elder Signs from your lodge. On a yellow, Call the Wicked Ones, taking a red and 2 blue. Summon a monster and become cursed. And a green, Dark Pact, taking a red and a white. Become cursed to prevent gaining all Elder Signs from a single source. Do I want temporary control? So that would let me sacrifice a cultist to ready a spell at no cost. I think I do want temporary control on the library, because I do see a spell in my hand that I could stand to ready at no cost. Which I don't get, so that's unfortunate. But anyway, I can ready an additional spell, so with a red and a white, I will go ahead and ready Dark Pact. So that's going to be very useful to hopefully keep the Elder Sign count in check. But anyway, Atlach-Nacha will draw on a green. Transmogrify, taking a white and a yellow. Change any one-rolled die to any face. If the new die is Tentacle or Cthulhu, become cursed. Then from the streets of Arkham, the investigators will try to move to the library, except we're there already. So they'll move to the other worlds instead, place an investigator there, and Atlach-Nacha will end up with her first curse. Then looking at Atlach-Nacha, I will discard Corruption, discard a white to move down to the ceremony, which will place a cultist and an investigator. Then I'll get a gate that I can use for movement, and I can take my dark gift. So that'll give me 1 cultist from the lodge and 1 from the abyss, which I'll put in the supply, which I'll put in the investigator's supply. So when they move to a location, I can place the cultist there if I want. Then we'll roll for temporary control. Which we do not get that. And I'd rather see a greater Elder Sign now than during a raid. But anyway, for a white and a blue, we are not going to be able to ready anything there. So Atlach-Nacha will draw on a white. She will find Power Surge, taking a wild, taking a purple only. So it has to be prepared at the other world. Until the end of your turn, you control your current location. Then the investigators will discard a blue at the other worlds to move to the library and place a cultist. Which I'm not interested in placing an investigator there. I think we'll discard a Confound at the ceremony on a green to move over to the gathering, which will place a cultist and an investigator. I'll get 3 back from the abyss and move 1 to the other worlds. Then I'll roll for temporary control. Here I would not object to a Cthulhu in the slightest. Which I don't get. I get a lesser Elder Sign on that one. And then for 2 green, I don't think there's anything there I can prepare. Nope. And 2 matching symbols don't count for preparing spells. So Atlach-Nacha will draw on a red, Enlighten the Faithful, taking a blue, white, and yellow. At the end of your turn, you may move up to 3 cultists from any one location to any other location. I'll have to keep an eye on that. But anyway, Atlach-Nacha will discard not Atlach-Nacha, the investigators will discard a red card at the museum to move over to the library and place their 3rd cultist out. I kind of want that Wizard's Grimoire, actually. But I can't prepare. I would love to prepare Enlighten the Faithful this turn. I think for now I'll discard 2 yellow to move over to the museum, which will place a cultist and an investigator, mostly because I want that Wizard's Grimoire, so I will go ahead and snap that up. So my minimum hand size is now 5. And then replacing that will be Forgotten Tome, Exhaust. When another cult moves to the library, draw 2 spell cards. That's another decent artifact, actually. And I'm not interested in temporary control at that location. Just looking at the spell there. Then I will draw on a green. An Ancient Stirring, taking 3 green. Advance 1 on the summon track. You may sacrifice 1 of your cultists at the current altar location to advance 1 more on your summon track. Okay, then the investigators will try to discard a blue card to try to move to the museum, but they can't because we're there, so they move to the other worlds instead, and Atlach-Nacha ends up with her 2nd curse already. Not a good place to be in right now, Atlach-Nacha, but anyway. So what do we want to do next? I think I'll go ahead and use a I need to get up to the I probably need to get up to the other world soon, as much as I don't. Well, I can discard a green at the museum to move over to the gathering, which will place a cultist and since they did move to the other worlds, I'm actually going to remember to do this. Move a cultist from their supply to the other worlds. Then speaking of moving cultists, I'll move 1, and then I'll roll for temporary control. Which I don't get. This is not time to be rolling like duds, Atlach-Nacha. Let's see, then 2 green and 2 yellow. I don't think will let me prepare anything. No. So Atlach-Nacha will actually draw 2 cards. She'll draw up to 5. 2 red, she'll find Alhazred's Vengeance, which is actually pretty terrible. Taking a blue, yellow, and white. I'll probably end up using this for movement. And then on another red, Transmogrify taking a blue and a yellow, or a blue and a white. Then from the other worlds, the investigators will discard a green, trying to move to the Gathering, except we're there, so they'll end up at the streets of Arkham instead. And Atlach-Nacha will take her 3rd curse already. This is a bit of a problem for Atlach-Nacha, but anyway. Right. So I think what we have to do here is Atlach-Nacha will use her gate card. We'll use her gate card for movement to move up to the other worlds, which will risk a raid here, but I don't think it can be helped. So we'll place an investigator, or a cultist, and an investigator. Then we'll get 5 dice. 3, 2, 5. And remember, here we need Cthulhu's or Tentacles to advance on the summon track. That is a gross roll. So Atlach-Nacha will sacrifice 1 to advance 1 on the summon track. Will still control the location outright because she has at least 3 cultists there and more than the investigators. So the Cthulhu will bring 1 investigator back to or 1 cultist, I should say, back to the lodge. Then we've got a wild, green, blue, red, and yellow. I'm just going to prepare a power surge there, because being able to control the location would be very... let's actually be a bit less of a herpaderp about this, and we'll prepare and immediately cast Enlighten the Faithful. So I'm going to use the wild there as a yellow. Actually, well, it will be immediately cast. It will be cast at the end of the turn, but I'll finish discarding that. Then at the end of your turn, you may move up to 3 of your cultists from any one location to any other location. So that's prepared there. And then Atlach-Nacha will draw 1 card. She will draw Dark Pact, taking a green and a yellow. Become cursed to prevent gaining all Elder Signs from a single source. Then the investigators from the streets of Arkham will discard a yellow or a white to move over to the ceremony and place an investigator there. Well, from the other worlds, I will discard 2 red. Where do I want to move to? Just looking at what I've got. I need to keep these curses at bay. Okay, now I'm actually going to wait on casting Enlighten the Faithful because I want to get maximum value out of it, even if I'm risking a raid here. Yeah, so I'm discarding 2 red. Actually, I could move to the streets of Arkham, which wouldn't be an all-terrible idea. Yeah, let's do that. So I'll move to the streets of Arkham, which will put a cultist and an investigator out. Then I can do the basic location action, so I destroy 2 investigators at the location. Do I want temporary control of the location, though? That will let me sacrifice 1 from the streets of Arkham to remove 1 more. So I get to get rid of 2 cultists from my lodge. And do I want to get rid of 1 more? I don't think so, because the next location move won't trigger a raid right off. So I'm not too worried about that yet. Let's see. Then for yellow, red, white, blue, nothing I can prepare there, so Atlach-Nacha will draw 2 cards. There we go. On a yellow, she'll find Alhazred's Vengeance, taking white, blue, green. Reveal when another cult takes an action that places at least 1 investigator on your lodge. That cult becomes cursed. And on a blue, which is cursed. Choose a cult. That cult becomes cursed. Then the investigators from the ceremony will discard a blue to move up to the museum and place a cultist. Now I'm going to try to go somewhere that isn't going to trigger a raid right off. We could go to the ceremony now, which wouldn't be a terrible idea. Actually, we could go almost anywhere at this point. So, actually, I will... if I can get back to the gathering, I can prepare Ancient Stirring. Which wouldn't be an all terrible idea, and I wouldn't trigger a raid on that. So, from the streets of Arkham, I will discard 2 white to move over to the gathering, which brings the investigators to my lodge. And I'm 1 short of triggering an end-of-turn raid, thankfully. So I move 1 there and 1 to an occultist there. I'll gain 3 back from the Abyss, move 1 to the other worlds, and here I wouldn't mind temporary control at all. Bring the dice tower back in shot. Do I want temporary control here? I might not, actually. I'll have 5 cultists there. I could actually do something really crazy, but I do get temporary control of the location. Yeah, I'll go ahead and move the last cultist up to the other worlds. Then for 3 green, I will go ahead and prepare an Ancient Stirring. So I can advance 1 on the summon track, and I may sacrifice 1 of my cultists at the current altar location to advance 1 more. So that's all gone. Okay, and that is it for turn. So Atlach-Nacha will draw 3 cards, 1, 2, and 3. On a yellow, Atlach-Nacha will find artifact to draw 1 artifact from the deck. Another yellow. Necessary evil, taking a purple and a blue. Gain 2 Elder Signs or retreat 1 on your summon track to destroy all curses on you. And on a white, Witch's Curse. Choose a cult, that cult becomes cursed. Then from the museum, the investigators will discard a white to move down to the ceremony and place another cultist at the location. Well, I definitely want to try to stop another raid from happening. I don't think there's any penalty if there are no cultists in the Abyss. No, so maybe moving to the other worlds to try to get a summon going wouldn't be an all terrible idea. Because I'm not going to... Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'll have 7 dice. 6. This could actually work. So I'm going to use... do I have another way I can... Actually, yes. If I'm patient 1 turn, I can potentially stop... I can potentially keep the raid from happening. So I can potentially keep a raid from happening. So I'll discard a yellow to move to the streets of Arkham, which will place another cultist and an investigator out, which the basic location action will take 2 off of my lodge, and I do have control of the location outright, so I'll sacrifice 1 cultist to remove 1 more investigator from, not the location, from the lodge. So I'm down to 1 in my lodge, which means I'm out of danger there. Then, okay, so for 3 white, a red, yellow, and a blue, I will waste all of that, all of those white, to discard these to prepare and immediately cast Find Artifact, so I can draw 1 artifact from the deck. Which means Atlach-Nacha finds Alter Fate, so I can reroll up to 3 of my dice once, or 1 of my dice up to 3 times. And I actually have... Okay, that's the rest of my hand, so I do draw 1 more card. Which means Atlach-Nacha finds on another yellow Power Surge, taking a purple. Until the end of your turn, you control your current location. Alright, so the investigators from the ceremony will discard a white. Actually, before I do that, there's one thing I wanted to do. So, Enlighten the Faith will actually remember to cast that. So at the end of my turn, I may move up to 3 cultists from any one location to any other location, and I will move to... I'll move the 2 cultists at the museum up to the other worlds. Now the investigators will discard a white to move up to try to move to the ceremony, except they're there already, so they'll move to the other worlds. And then Atlach-Nacha will place a cultist there. Let's see here. Moving to either the library or the ceremony right now would trigger a raid, and that would be a huge problem. So, unless I eat another curse, but that would be a very dangerous play right now. The problem is right now the only safe location, I think, is the library. So I'll discard a red card to move to the library. These 3 cultists come, or these 3 investigators come to my lodge. I'm not about to get raided, thankfully. I'll place a cultist and an investigator. I get to draw 3 cards, and I can ready 1 additional spell, plus... Okay, so plus I can sacrifice 1 cultist because I have control to ready a spell at no charge. Right, that was... I don't think I prepared that. Okay, so... On a blue, Shadow Walk, taking 2 red and a white. At the end of your turn, you may sacrifice 1 cultist and become cursed to immediately take another turn. Then on a yellow, Dark Pact, become cursed to prevent gaining all Elder Signs from a single source. And Call of the Wicked Ones, summon a monster and become cursed. Then, I can ready an additional spell, and since I have control, I'll sacrifice 1 cultist to prepare the aforementioned Ancient Stirring, and I'll immediately cast it, so I can advance 1 on a summon track, and sacrifice 1 cultist to advance 1 more. That was my no-cost ready. Then for red, white, blue, I'll just prepare another Dark Pact to let me become cursed to prevent gaining all Elder Signs from a single source. But I need to be careful because I can stop 1 raid, but I can't stop a second. So anyway, on a blue, Atlach-Nacha draws Sign of the Brotherhood, taking 2 red and a blue. Choose 1 other cult to return 1 of their cultists from the Abyss and place that on their lodge. You do the same with 3. Before I take the investigator's next turn, though, I need to take a small break. Alright, so for the investigator's turn from the other worlds, they will discard a red spell, a red card, to try to move to the library, except we're there already. So this will move them to the streets of Arkham. Atlach-Nacha will take a 4th curse, and this is very, very bad. Because Atlach-Nacha is basically in a situation right now. Remember, because of tiebreakers, Atlach-Nacha cannot take any Elder Signs, with the number of curses she's got right now. So she gets raided immediately with 4 dice. She can't even use her Dark Pact to try to get rid of any of these curses, because that would be to block these Elder Signs, because that would be her 5th curse and she'd be out. So she's in a no-win situation. She has to dodge it here. And she does not. So 3 of the investigators leave. So 3 of the investigators are gone, but Atlach-Nacha takes 2 Elder Signs. And now Atlach-Nacha actually can't win. So we'll go ahead and play it out anyway to see how this would have turned out. So yeah, that was very bad. But anyway, yeah. So like I said, we'll go ahead and play this out anyway. But Atlach-Nacha will discard 2 blue to move up to the other worlds, which will place a 10th cultist and an investigator there. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. So she'll be rolling all 10 dice. The problem here, 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. The problem here for Atlach-Nacha, and I'll explain after this roll, so I'll roll that one more time. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So she advances 4, but the problem is, unless she can get rid of these Elder Signs somehow, she'll take her 5th curse on the... What did I do with Atlach-Nacha's hand? I didn't put it in the discard pile, did I? No, that's stuff I've cast. What in the world did I do with her hand? I had to put it down to roll the dice, obviously, but... Oh, here it is. The problem here is, so she got 4, so she sacrifices 4 cultists and advances 4 on the summoning track. The problem is, unless she's got a way to get rid of these curses right now, or get rid of these Elder Signs without getting cursed, she's not going to be able to win this turn. She's not going to be able to get clear of this summon. Actually, I think what she needs to do, she needs to get rid of these curses too. Control doesn't do anything for her because she didn't roll any cultists on that roll, or any Cthulhu's on that roll. So for 3 red and a wild, I think we'll just prepare, actually, I think we'll just prepare a power surge there until the end of your turn. You control your current location. So those are gone. And then Atlach-Nacha will draw on a white she will find. Alhazred's Vengeance. Reveal, taking a yellow, green, and red. Reveal when another cult takes an action that places at least 1 cultist on your lodge. That cult becomes cursed. Alright, then from the streets of Arkham, the investigators will discard a white to move over to the ceremony and turn that into an ungodly mess. Then for Atlach-Nacha, she will discard 2 white from the other worlds to move over to the library. She's going to have to try this again. But anyway, 3 cards from the deck. I'll place a cultist and an investigator. Right now we are digging desperately for ways to get rid of Elder Signs. So on a blue, Atlach-Nacha will find Transmogrify, taking a red and a green. Change any 1 rolled die to any face. If that new face is cultist, is Cthulhu or cultist or tentacle, become cursed. Then 2 green we find. Come on. Alter Fate, taking a yellow and a red. Either reroll up to 3 of your dice once or 1 of your dice up to 3 times. And Sign of the Brotherhood, taking 2 yellow and a white. That was not helpful at all. And in fact, we have no way to... That gave us exactly no way to get rid of Elder Signs. So, on a green, Atlach-Nacha will find... There's nothing I can prepare for red and 2 blue, by the way. She will find Coerce the Innocent. Move up to 2 cultists, 2 investigators from any 1 location or lodge to any lodges. Then the investigators will discard a green, or they're at the ceremony. They'll discard a green to move to the gathering and place a cultist there. Oh boy. So pretty much everything's an ungodly mess right now. And going to the streets of Arkham really doesn't help out much. The problem here for Atlach-Nacha, like I said, is even if we move to the other worlds right now and we get her summoned, she'll have taken 2 Elder Signs to Yog-Sothoth's 1, so she'll be out of Christmas in Arkham. Actually, she won't get summoned because she'll meet the Elder Signs first and take her 5th curse. So yeah, I think our only gamble here is I think we have to gamble one more time so we'll discard a blue to move over to the museum, which picks up all 4 of these cultists. She is going to get raided, but I can't help, but like I said, I have to gamble at this point. Unfortunately, this was actually a bad plan because she's also going to, well, actually, she's going to get raided at the end of the turn pretty much no matter how I did this. That will also meet her 5th curse threshold and she'll lose. Maybe an artifact will help me stop that somehow, so she will find Jade Statue. If you're at the other worlds, reroll up to 2 of your dice. I don't even care about temporary control at this point. I don't think I can prepare I don't have anything I can prepare that will help. So yeah, we'll just draw from the deck. Atlach-Nacha will find. On a yellow, enlighten the faithful, taking red, white, blue. At the end of your turn, you may move up to 3 of your cultists from any one location to any other locations. And then Atlach-Nacha will get raided with 5 dice. The odds that one of these is not going to end up giving her an Elder Sign and thus her 5th curse, I would say is somewhere between slim and none, but let's find out. One Elder Sign is all it took. Atlach-Nacha almost dodged the bullet, but so all 5 cultists do leave. So yeah, we take the Elder Sign, but because our threshold is at 7, that's actually Atlach-Nacha's 5th curse, and she has lost. So Atlach-Nacha, come on. There we go. We'll get a no, having taken 3 Elder Signs and 5 curses. So Atlach-Nacha did not manage to get summoned after all of that. But anyway, that will do it for Atlach-Nacha's playthrough. Now I need to reset the board for Shub-Niggurath. After Atlach-Nacha's failed summon, Yog-Sothoth is very much still riding 2 free Ancient Stirrings to potentially being the opposition for Christmas in Arkham. Shub-Niggurath is our last chance to stop that, but let's go ahead and see what artifacts she will have to start with. So first up, Runic Chalk. While it's in play, increase your spell reserve by 1. Discard to ready a spell for free. And the Necronomicon. When you gain this artifact, become cursed. Exhaust to add a wild card for readying a spell. Discard to move the fate piece to another location. Both good artifacts, but the curses might be a touch dangerous. But anyway, let's drop down and meet our last ancient one in the winners group, Shub-Niggurath. Once again, I'm so unaccustomed to playing with the monsters, I forgot to reveal our starting reserve. So starting in the reserve, we have the Migo. 3 tokens, 2 of which have artifact symbols on them. On your turn, instead of playing an astral symbol, you may discard 1 token to move the fate piece to another location and place a Migo there instead of a cultist. Migo are considered cultists, but count as 2 cultists for purposes of control. Migo can't be sacrificed. After a token is discarded and Migo are placed in the location, if an artifact symbol is revealed, place 1 artifact from the top of the artifact deck face down in the current location's astral column. The next time we ready a spell there, we take the artifact. That's for a solo game. It actually reads the next cult to ready a spell there, takes the artifact. And then the other monster is the goat spawn once again. We'll play it the exact same way as we would have in the last game, but we never took the goat spawn. Anyway, we might be doing a little bit more with monsters here, because Shub-Niggurath's Dark Gift is 1,000 young. Discard any monster you control and its corresponding tokens. Draw 3 monster cards from the face-down reserve. Summon 1 and place the other cards on the bottom of the monster reserve. This does not count as a curse. Then taking a look at the starting hand, we find on a yellow first. Find artifacts, taking a blue and a red. Discard, draw 1 artifact from the artifact deck. And then we've got 2 red. Enlighten the Investigators. Cast when a cult discards a monster token. That cult places 2 investigators in their lodge. So I think the way we'll rule that is probably return 2 investigators. Well, actually, that's probably just going to get used for movement anyway. And on another red, Transmogrify, taking a blue and a white. Change any 1-rolled die to any face. If the new face is Tentacle or Cthulhu, become cursed. So anyway, with that, let's move back up to the board and see what Shub-Niggurath can do. Since I mentioned Enlighten the Investigators being so suspect, I'll discard that at the other worlds to move to the library, placing a cultist and an investigator. Then I'll get to draw 3 spell cards, and I get to ready an additional one using red and white. Drawing on 2 white first, we find Power Surge, taking a purple. Until the end of your turn, you control your current location. The other white is Coerce the Innocent. Move up to 2 investigators from any one location or lodge to any lodges. And on a red, Cubes of Power, taking a blue and a green. When you're rolling dice, you may add 2 additional dice to the roll. Is there anything that we need temporary control to prepare? Yes, there is, actually. There's nothing we can prepare naturally, but there is some stuff we can prepare. So we'll go ahead and roll for temporary control. Which we do get, so I can sacrifice a cultist to ready a spell at no cost. And I will ready. I'll go ahead and ready and immediately cast Find Artifact. So that'll let me draw 1 artifact from the artifact deck. Then we will find Elder Mask. Exhaust during your turn to place 1 additional investigator on your location. Discard, you don't take investigators from a location this turn. Not particularly useful, but then for a red and a white, we're not readying anything else, so we'll go ahead and draw. We will find Mind Switch, taking a green and a blue. Swap 1 of your cultists from any one location with any other cultist at a different location, so we'll just swap with investigators. Anyway, the investigators from the streets of Arkham will discard a white to move over to the ceremony and place a cultist, or place an investigator. Then for my turn, what do I want to do? I will discard a... All I've got is red and white right now. That's not a good hand. So I've got to discard 2 cards to move. I guess I will discard the... I guess I'll discard 2 red to move over to the museum, which will give me those. And I will grab the Necronomicon at risk of ending up cursed. And then for the top of the artifact, I will find Lamp of Alhazred. Discard to roll 3 dice. For each cultist or elder sign, for each elder sign, gain 1 elder sign. Then immediately take another turn. I kind of do want temporary control so I can sweep the artifact deck clear. Because I don't like... I kind of don't mind the... Oh, I gotta take Shub-Niggurath's first curse. That's unfortunate, but there's no help for it. That Necronomicon is just too useful. Anyway, go ahead and rolling up. I don't get temporary control, so I can't sweep the reserve clear. Green, blue, and a free wild. I'll just use the green and the blue naturally to prepare Mind Switch, so I can swap one of my cultists from a location with any other within investigators. How I'll do that for the solo game. Then drawing up, we will find on a yellow, Alter Fate, taking a green and a red, so I can reroll up to 3 of my dice once, or one of my dice up to 3 times. Then the investigators will discard from the ceremony. They'll discard a blue, trying to move into the museum, except we're there already. So they'll move to the other world instead, placing another investigator and giving Shub-Niggurath her second curse. Then for my turn, I will discard the... I'll discard Coerce the Innocent on a white to move down to the ceremony, which will put another investigator there. And a cultist, I'll take a gate card and trigger her Dark Gift. So I draw 3 monster cards from the face-down reserve. And I get to summon 1 and place the others on the bottom of the reserve. So first up we find a Dark Young. On your turn, you may discard 1 token to place a Dark Young on a location. Move all investigators there to any one adjacent location, then roll dice. For each tentacle, destroy 1 cultist, we'll say investigator for purposes of the solo game. For each Cthulhu, destroy 2. Investigators can't be placed or moved onto a location occupied by Dark Young. A Deep One. Upon summoning, place 1 Deep One on 3 different locations. On your turn, you may move 1 token to choose a location occupied by a Deep One and destroy 1 cultist or investigator at that location. The Deep Ones count as 1 cultist for purposes of control, but can't be sacrificed. Locations. Well, that's a special that's not related to here. And the Hunting Horror. Place the Hunting Horror on this card. On your turn, you may discard 1 token to place the Hunting Horror on any lodge. When investigators or cultists are added to the occupied lodge, roll 1 die for each. On a Cthulhu or tentacle, destroy the investigator or cultist, then return the Hunting Horror to this card. If the Hunting Horror returns to this card and there are no more tokens, remove Hunting Horror from play. I think we're going to take the Hunting Horror. Mostly so I can try to start gobbling up some of these monsters, or some of these investigators. But anyway, we'll get the 4 tokens out for that. 1, 2, 3, 4. Then I'll go find the Hunting Horror, which is this one right here. And because we summoned this via Shub-Niggurath's Dark Gift rather than a spell, she will not become cursed. And then since it's still... I'll wait for my turn, actually. I'm probably not going to need that right away, but 3 white and a blue will let me ready exactly Bubkiss from my hand. But I do want to try to roll for temporary control. I did forget about that. Oh, crying out loud. Hang on. I just had stuff go flying. So, 1, 2, 3. Where did that last token land? Oh, there it is. Right under the... that was the... Okay, that was the wrong fate piece that I moved. So I discarded... Hold on. I gotta back... Oh, I think I used the... That's right, I used 2 red to move there. So I think... Where did we end up? I think they ended up at the other world. That's right. So, okay. Now that we got that straightened out, back to what I was saying about temporary control. I moved the wrong fate piece. Herpaderp. Greater Elder Sign does not give me temporary control. This is not going well at all for Shub-Niggurath. But anyway, drawing a red, we will find Alhazred's Vengeance, which is probably just movement fodder at this point, taking a blue, yellow, and white. Reveal when another cult takes an action that places an investigator on your lodge, they become cursed. Right, so then from the other worlds, the investigators will discard a blue to move over to the museum and place another cultist, or place another investigator. Then for my turn, that, like I said, that spell, I think that Alhazred's Vengeance is discard fodder, so we'll discard it to the astral column at the ceremony, move up to the library, placing an investigator and a cultist. I'll draw 3 spell cards and I can ready an additional spell. 2 green. First up, we find Command, taking a purple and a white. Move a monster in a location or lodge to any other location or lodge. Sounds like discard fodder to me. And Mind Switch, taking a red and a blue. Swap one of your cultists from any one location with any other cultist at a different location. And on a blue, Transmogrify, taking a blue, a green, and a red. Change any one rolled die to any face. If it's Cthulhu or Tentacle, become cursed. Is there anything that I need temporary control to prepare? Yes, there is actually. Yeah, so I will. Actually, I can't prepare anything for 3 red and a white naturally, so I don't think temporary control even really does anything, so I'll just draw on a red. I will find Alter Fate, taking a yellow and a white. That's our reroll spell. Then the investigators will try to move to the library, except we're there already, so they'll move to the other worlds, place another investigator, and that is our 3rd curse. So this is not going well at all. And we've made absolutely exactly 0 progress on Shub-Niggurath's summoning track. So, I will actually discard a token to place the Hunting Horror on my lodge, because I'm going to move from the library over to the museum and take these 3 cultists. Except remember the Hunting Horror. When investigators are added, I roll a die for each. On a Cthulhu or Tentacle, I destroy them, and then I return the Hunting Horror to this card. So we get 3 dice there. One of them goes away, so our next 3 move isn't just going to trigger a raid. Well, our next 3 move actually will trigger a raid, but we'll place a cultist and an investigator out. Like I said, I don't like any of these artifacts, so I'll just draw 1. I will draw Chamber's Journal. Exhaust, choose a location, then roll a die. On a Cthulhu or Tentacle, add an investigator from your lodge to that location. Or on a greater elder sign, add 1 investigator from that location to your lodge. So that could be a problem. I do have control outright, so I will sweep the artifact reserve clear. And we'll draw 2 fresh artifacts. First up, we'll find the Silver Key. Exhaust to move 1 cultist from any location to any other location where I have 1 or fewer. And I can discard it to move the fate piece to another location. And Jade Statue. If I'm at the other worlds, reroll up to 2 of my dice. And then I don't have any Elder Signs to sacrifice. A red and a blue. Seems like... What did I do with my hand again? Oh, here it is. Red and a blue actually will let me prepare and probably immediately cast Mind Switch. So I'll discard the red. So swap a cultist at a location with an investigator at a different location. I will swap a museum with an otherworlds. Okay, and then we draw another spell. So we will draw Coerce the innocent, moving up to 2 investigators from any one location or lodge to any lodge. Then the investigators from the other worlds will discard a red to move to the library and put another cultist there. Okay, so I'm going to discard a token from the Hunting Horror to put it back on my lodge again, and then I'll use my gate card at the museum to move to the ceremony. All 3 of these will move to my lodge, except I'll get to roll 3 dice and see if I can get rid of any of them. This time, all 3 of them go bye-bye, so no end of turn raid, thankfully. We'll place a cultist, and actually we'll place one of the investigators back on the lodge. So the Hunting Horror has actually been pretty useful, but we are going to end up discarding him. He goes back to the bottom of the stack. And then we'll draw 3 new monsters. 1, 2, 3. First up we find the Shub-Niggurath, which we saw in Shub-Niggurath's play-in playthrough. We may try that again. Hopefully it'll do a little better this time. The Bayaki. Upon summoning, gain a gate card and place the Bayaki on any location. On your turn, you may discard 1 token to move the Bayaki and any 2 cultists from at its current location to any other location. That could be useful. And Hound of Tyndalos. On your turn, you may discard 1 token to place the Hound of Tyndalos on the summon track of any lodge. The cult's summon track cannot advance while being occupied by the Hound of Tyndalos. To remove the Hound of Tyndalos, the cult may either choose to become cursed or visit the ceremony and remove the Hound of Tyndalos instead of activating their Ancient One's Dark Gift. The Hound of Tyndalos is then returned to this card. The Hound of Tyndalos is removed from play when it returns to this card and there are no more tokens. I would probably use that to just block curses, which wouldn't be the worst thing, but I think I will take the Bayaki. Except I already have a gate card, so... Alright, so I get the Bayaki, which I think is this. So I place it on any location. I'll place that on the museum, I think. And then I need 3 tokens for it. And then since it is still my turn, I will actually discard a token to move them to the other worlds. And then I'll get to roll for... Actually, I control the location outright, so I will just sacrifice 2 cultists to advance 1 on the summoning track. Is there anything here that could potentially help? Yes, there is, actually. So we're actually going to do a little bit of mind switching, because I've got 2 mind switches prepared. So I'll swap 1 cultist from any one location with a cultist with an investigator. So we're going to concentrate on the other worlds for obvious reasons. We'll do it like that. So those are gone. And for 3 white, 2 red, or 3 white, a blue, and a red, nothing here I can prepare. So we'll draw on a green we will find. Enthrall taking 2 yellow. Choose 1 location another cult controls. Destroy 2 of their cultists from that location. We'll choose investigators as usual. Anyway, we'll discard a green at the library for the investigators to move over to the gathering and place another investigator there. Then we got to be careful because we don't have any cultists, so we're going to end up taking Elder Sign most likely in penalty. And they just moved to the gathering, so that's actually very bad. But anyway, I will use the gate card for movement at the ceremony to move up to the other worlds, placing my last cultist and an investigator there. So I'll have 7 dice to roll on this. I wouldn't mind seeing some Cthulhu's and still hold control of the location. 2, 4, 5, 6, 7. Because even if I roll all summons, I'm not going to have enough to... Oh, I've been forgetting about the Necronomicon. Could I have readied anything last turn? I probably could have, but I wasn't interested in anything. But anyway. So even if I roll all summons, I'm not going to get enough... I'm not going to get all the way up the track to be able to summon. Oop. 1, 2, 3, 4, and I did roll 3 Cthulhu's, so I get to sacrifice 4 to advance 4 on the track. 1, 2, 3, 4. And I still control the location outright, so I get 3 of them back into my lodge, which actually stops the Elder Sign penalty. Very, very welcome. Then for wild, 2 red, blue, yellow. And I've got to remember I've got the Necronomicon as a wild. Is there anything there I'm interested in preparing? There is, actually. The question is, what do I want to prepare? Let's go wild, and I'll exhaust the Necronomicon for another wild to use command and immediately cast it to move a monster in a location or lodge to any other location or lodge. So I'll move the Bayaki to the library, and then I'll spend another token to move the cultists back to the other worlds. Okay, and then the investigators, or then Shub-Niggurath will draw, so she will draw. Confound. Move all, taking a blue and 2 yellow. Move all investigators from one location to an adjacent location, or destroy all investigators in your lodge. Then the investigators will discard a white from the gathering to move over to the ceremony and place a 3rd cultist out there. Then for my turn, I will discard... I'll discard Coerce the Innocent from... actually, no. I'll discard Alter Fate so I can move to the streets of Arkham, which will place a cultist and an investigator. I'll get rid of these 2 cultists in my lodge, and I don't need temporary control because because I don't have any cultists left in my lodge right now. I did remember to unexhaust the Necronomicon. Let's see. And I think I will exhaust the Necronomicon to prepare Power Surge. So until the end of my turn, I control my current location. Those are gone, and then I will draw. Alhazred's Vengeance, which is basically El Hot Garbaggio for spells in this game. Then from the ceremony, the investigators will discard a yellow, trying to move to the streets of Arkham, except they can't get there. So they move to the other world, which is really bad for me, because I put an investigator there, and Shub-Niggurath ends up with her 4th curse. So this is bad. Anyway, we'll unexhaust that. What do I want to do? We are actually in deep trouble. So I think what I will do here is I'm actually going to use... Is there anywhere that's relatively safe? Problem is I'm going to need two matching cards to get to the... Problem is I'm going to need 2 matching cards to get to the... to get to the other world. So I got to take a small break. So I was just looking at the artifact that Shub-Niggurath has, and I think she's in a position where she's got to go for it. So she's got to discard the Necronomicon, and she's going to move the Investigator's Fate piece. I was looking at that to say move the Fate piece to another location. I would think that applies to either Fate piece, but anyway, she will move that. She just needs to get that off the other worlds over to the library, and then coming back to her hand, she'll discard 2 green cards. We'll discard these 2. Yep, we'll discard these 2 at the Streets of Arkham to move up to the other worlds, placing a 6th cultist and another investigator. So, do I have any kind of mitigation right now? I have Power Surge, which I will actually cast so I can control the current location just in case this goes haywire. But here's our current situation. So, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Shub-Niggurath is rolling 6 dice. It's basically coming right down to it. So the situation here is pretty simple for Shub-Niggurath. She's rolling 6 dice. If 4 of these are summons, she has somehow not taken an Elder Sign yet. If 4 of these are summons, we're facing Shub-Niggurath for Christmas in Arkham. Because by tiebreakers, she has somehow taken no Elder Signs to Yog-Sothoth's 1. So that's our situation. 1, like I said, 1 cultist, or 4 summons means Shub-Niggurath's our opponent for Christmas in Arkham. So let's find out. This roll is basically for all the marbles. One, 2, 3, 4. So that's exactsies. So Shub-Niggurath will sacrifice 4 cultists, advance 1, 2, 3, 4. Then coming over here, yes, to get summoned. No Elder Signs, but 4 curses. It wasn't pretty, but Shub-Niggurath has managed to get summoned. Of the 3 Ancient Ones, only Atlach-Nacha failed to get summoned. But by virtue of tiebreakers, Shub-Niggurath had no Elder Signs to Yog-Sothoth's 1. So because of the Elder Sign tiebreaker, Shub-Niggurath has won this year's Fate of the Elder Gods tournament and will be our opponent for Christmas in Arkham. Let me just make a note here. Alright. And that will do it for the Fate of the Elder Gods tournament. That was actually a very impressive winners group, aside from Atlach-Nacha kind of laying an egg there in the... She ended up getting to 7 on the summon track, just keeping track of that. But anyway, like I said, that will do it for the Fate of the Elder Gods tournament, and Shub-Niggurath is our opponent for Christmas in Arkham. So this week, we actually have a full slate of videos lined up. Wednesday night, we'll debut Wednesday night board gaming on the channel as we play Terra Mystica. We also need to meet the investigators who are taking on Christmas in Arkham, and we'll meet them Friday. On Sunday, Christmas in Arkham will officially begin with the first leg of the campaign as we play Eldritch Horror. Before I sign off, I want to talk about a couple things. First of all, mostly about other content that I've had on the channel this year. So I've spent most of the year experimenting with other content to feature on the channel. I experimented briefly with Mortal Kombat Mobile earlier this year, but I had a lot of drama with Mortal Kombat this year, and that kind of ended up falling by the wayside. The new Classic Tower that came out in October ended up being my final straw on that game, even as a player. I'd also been streaming on Twitch for the last couple of months, but I decided to put that on hold between wanting to experiment with additional board game content on the channel and with Christmas in Arkham, just because I know those sessions run, just because I know those editing sessions run very long. But anyway, I'm getting into ramble territory, so I'll go ahead and wrap this video up. But thank you for letting me bend your ears a little bit on a brain dump.
Hello everyone, Phoenix Knight from the future here. So there was actually one more thing I wanted to talk about before I wrapped the video up, but I didn't remember it until I had already turned the camera off and was starting to clean up. So I wanted to talk a little bit about this Fate of the Elder Gods tournament itself. So the idea I had was I wanted to do something a little bit different for Christmas in Arkham, because I wanted to decide the opponent for Christmas in Arkham in a more thematic way, since I know I have more time on the calendar that I can work with on that. So that's where the idea, and I was thinking about this Fate of the Elder Gods tournament idea as far back as even the first time I debuted this game on the channel all the way back in April. I may have alluded to it back then, but I don't know if I really talked about it completely. And like I mentioned at the top of the tournament, for the Summer of Lovecraft, when I run this in the summer, I'll default to an executive decision on the opponent. But like I said, I wanted to put a different twist on this tournament so that I know I've got time to play with. So I'm curious to get your feedback on what you guys think of this tournament, and I apologize in advance that it was very much an overload of videos, but I wanted to make sure I played everything out on channel. So yeah, once again, thank you for tuning in for the Fate of the Elder Gods tournament, and back on with the video.
Anyway, thank you for watching the video. Please give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Be sure to turn on notifications so you get my content. Be well, stay safe, take care of yourselves and your loved ones, and I'll be back with more videos in the future. Until then, take care everyone.